My friend, one of the greatest struggles in life is that we only see what is directly in front of us. We see the bills piling up. We see the doctor's report. We see the betrayal of people we trusted. We see doors closing and opportunities slipping away. But what you see is not the full picture. You and I live within the limits of time, within the frame of human vision. But God, He sees from eternity. He is not confined by the beginning or the end, for He is the Alpha and the Omega. While you are staring at a mountain that looks immovable, He is already standing on the other side, preparing your victory. Think about this: a child may cry in the night because he cannot see his father, but the father is there, awake, watching, planning. The child only knows his fear, but the father sees the whole house. In the same way, when you cry out and feel like heaven is silent, God has not abandoned you. He is seeing what you cannot see. He is working behind the curtain of your circumstances, arranging things you don't even know you need yet. Consider Joseph in the Bible. From his perspective, being thrown into a pit by his brothers was tragedy. Being sold into slavery was injustice. Being thrown into prison for a crime he didn't commit was humiliation. That is what he saw. But what God saw was a future prime minister of Egypt, a man chosen to save nations from famine. While Joseph was crying in chains, God was positioning him for greatness. What he saw was pain. What God saw was purpose. You may say, but my situation is too complicated, too broken, too far gone. No, nothing is hidden from God's eyes. He sees the people who are plotting against you. He sees the tears you cry when no one else is there. He sees the prayers you pray in the midnight hour. And because He sees, He is already providing. Trust Him even when you cannot trace Him. Trust Him when the road is unclear. Trust Him when your heart says, I don't understand. Because He does understand. When Israel stood at the Red Sea, all they saw was water in front and Pharaoh's army behind. They saw no escape, no hope, but God saw a dry path hidden beneath the waves. He already knew that the same sea that looked like death would become the passage to freedom. What you see as an obstacle, God sees as an opportunity to reveal His power. This is why you must not lean on your own understanding. Your sight is short, your wisdom is limited, but His vision is eternal. You may only see Friday's crucifixion, but God already sees Sunday's resurrection. You may only see the tears of today, but God already sees the joy of tomorrow. So when life doesn't make sense, don't panic. When the situation looks impossible, don't give up. Lift your eyes above what you see and trust the one who sees beyond. God has already gone ahead of you. He is in your tomorrow while you are still in today. He is fighting battles you don't even know are coming. He is opening doors that haven't even been built yet. My friend, do not let your vision be the limit of your faith. The doctor may give you one report, but God sees healing. The economy may forecast failure, but God sees provision. People may declare your story is over, but God sees a brand new chapter. Trust Him because He sees what you cannot see, and in His vision, the ending is always victory. One of the hardest lessons in life is learning to wait. We are a people who want answers now, breakthroughs today, miracles instantly. But the kingdom of God does not operate according to the impatience of man. Heaven's timing is perfect, and what looks like a delay to you is not a denial from God. It is preparation, alignment, and divine strategy. So many people give up just before the answer comes because they mistake silence for absence or waiting for rejection. But hear me clearly, silence is not absence and waiting is not rejection. When God seems to delay, it is not because He has forgotten you. It is because He is working on something far greater than what you asked for. Think of Abraham. God promised him a son, but years passed with no fulfillment. 10 years, 20 years, still nothing. Did that mean the promise was a lie? No, it meant that the promise had an appointed time. In the delay, God was shaping Abraham's faith, teaching him to depend not on human power, but on divine faithfulness. And when Isaac was born, it was clear to the whole world that this was not man's doing, but God's. Maybe you have prayed for healing, and it hasn't come yet. Maybe you've asked for financial breakthrough, but the doors remain closed. Maybe you've begged God to restore your family, and all you hear is silence. Don't let the waiting make you believe He said no. His not yet is not the same as never. His delay is not punishment, it is positioning. He is putting the right people, the right opportunities, and the right timing in place so that when the blessing comes, it will fit perfectly into His plan for your life. Think of David, anointed as king as a boy, but he didn't sit on the throne the next day. Instead, he spent years running from Saul, hiding in caves, fighting battles. If you had asked David in the caves, where is God's promise? He might have been tempted to say, it feels delayed. But that delay was training him, humbling him, and preparing him for the weight of the crown. Had he sat on the throne too soon, he would not have had the maturity to rule. But when the fullness of time came, nothing could stop him from becoming king. The same is true for you. Delay is God's way of preparing you for what He has already prepared for you. If He gave it to you too early, it might crush you. If He opened the door too soon, you might not have the strength to walk through it. If He answered your prayer immediately, you might not appreciate the value of the gift. Waiting seasons are not wasted seasons. They are training grounds, shaping your character and strengthening your faith. When Israel wandered in the wilderness for 40 years, it wasn't because God couldn't lead them straight to the promised land. It was because they weren't ready. The land was ready for them, but they weren't ready for the land. And sometimes your blessing is ready, but God is waiting until you are ready. So, if you are in a season of delay, don't despair. Do not say, God has forgotten me. No, He has engraved you on the palm of His hands. A mother may forget her child, but God will never forget you. The silence you hear is not the sound of abandonment. It is the sound of heaven rearranging things on your behalf. Your delay is not your denial. Your waiting is not wasted. Hold on to faith, because when God's appointed time arrives, no demon in hell, no man on earth, no circumstance in your way will be able to stop His promise from manifesting. What He has spoken will come to pass. And when it comes, it will come with such power and perfection that you will say, surely the wait was worth it. One of the deepest pains a human soul can carry is the pain of brokenness. Broken dreams, broken health, broken relationships, broken confidence. Life has a way of shattering us piece by piece until we feel like nothing is left. And when we stand among the fragments of what once was, it is easy to believe that it is over. But let me remind you today, brokenness in the hands of God is not the end. It is the beginning of breakthrough. God does not discard the broken pieces of your life. He is not like men who walk away when things fall apart. He is the master potter, and the potter never throws away the clay. Instead, He takes what is marred and reshapes it into something new, something stronger, something more beautiful. The very place where you feel most broken can become the very place where His glory shines the brightest. Consider the life of Job. In a single moment, he lost his wealth, his children, his health. Everything was broken. From the outside, it looked like the end. But in the depth of his ashes, Job discovered the God who restores double. His brokenness became the soil of his breakthrough. And in the end, his testimony was not of defeat, but of a God who can restore more than was lost. Your tears are not wasted. Your pain is not pointless. The heartbreak you are enduring today may be the very doorway to a testimony that will shake nations. When Jesus stood before 5,000 hungry people, all the disciples had was 5 loaves and 2 fish. But notice something powerful. Before He multiplied the bread, He broke it. The breaking came before the blessing, and the same principle is true for you. Sometimes God allows you to be broken, not to destroy you, but to multiply you. Your broken season may be the seed of a blessing so great, it will feed multitudes. Think also of Peter. He was broken by his denial of Christ, crushed by the weight of his failure. Yet that same Peter, after being restored, stood on the day of Pentecost and preached a sermon that brought 3,000 souls into the kingdom. His greatest failure became the foundation of his greatest calling. That's what God does. He transforms failure into fuel, wounds into wisdom, and scars into signs of His power. Maybe right now you feel broken beyond repair, but hear me clearly. What is broken in your hands is whole in God's hands. He can take the shattered pieces of your life and build something greater than you ever imagined. The divorce, the sickness, the betrayal, the loss, it may have broken you, but it cannot break God's plan. He specializes in taking ashes and bringing forth beauty. Sometimes, breakthrough doesn't come in spite of your brokenness. It comes through your brokenness. That's why Paul could say, "When I am weak, then I am strong." Because the cracks in your life are not places of shame. They are the openings where God's glory enters. If you never felt broken, you would never know the healer. If you never experienced loss, you would never experience restoration. If you never walked through the valley, you would never know the power of the shepherd who walks beside you. So today, instead of despising your brokenness, place it in the hands of the one who redeems. Say, "Lord, take these pieces, take these tears, take these scars, and use them for your glory." Because when he steps into your situation, the fragments of your past become the foundation of your future. My friend, don't hide your brokenness. Trust God with it, because the same God who raised Lazarus from the grave, the same God who restored Job, the same God who healed Peter's heart is the same God who will take your brokenness and turn it into breakthrough. And when he does, the testimony of your life will not be, "Look what I survived," but "Look what God has done." Faith is the key that unlocks the door to the impossible. Many people want miracles, but they do not realize that miracles are not just acts of God, they are responses to faith. Faith is not wishful thinking. Faith is not blind optimism. Faith is absolute trust that what God has spoken, He will perform. It is the bridge between your problem and God's power. Without faith, even the greatest promises of God remain distant. But with faith, the impossible becomes inevitable. Think of the woman with the issue of blood. For 12 long years she suffered, rejected by society, drained of all her resources. By human standards, her situation was hopeless. Doctors had failed, money was gone, strength was weak. But in her spirit she carried one conviction: if I can just touch the hem of His garment, I will be healed. That is faith, not logic, not evidence, not statistics, faith. And what happened? The moment she reached out in belief, power flowed from Jesus into her body, and the impossible became reality. Faith pulled the miracle into her life. Faith is not passive, it is active. It requires you to move, to act, to step beyond what you can see. When Peter saw Jesus walking on water, he could have stayed in the safety of the boat. But faith called him to step onto the waves. As long as his eyes were on Jesus, the impossible became his reality. He walked on water. The laws of nature bent before the law of faith. My friend, faith is not about staying comfortable in the boat. It is about stepping out where logic says you cannot go and trusting that God will hold you up. The Bible says, without faith it is impossible to please God. Why? Because faith honors Him. Faith says, God, I believe you above what I see. I believe you above what people say. I believe you above what my situation looks like. That kind of faith moves heaven. That kind of faith shakes hell. That kind of faith makes the impossible bow before the name of the Lord. Look at Joshua and the walls of Jericho. A massive fortress stood in their way, and God gave them the strangest instruction: march around the walls and shout. It made no sense, but they obeyed in faith. And on the seventh day, those walls crumbled like dust. Faith activated the impossible. Your mountain may not be made of stone, but it may be made of debt, sickness, rejection, or fear. Yet Jesus said, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move, and it will move. Notice, He didn't say climb it, walk around it, or endure it. He said move it. Faith gives you authority to command what seems immovable to bow before the name of the Lord. The problem is that too many people let doubt choke their faith. Doubt whispers, what if it doesn't happen? But faith shouts louder, what if it does? Faith does not wait for proof. It believes before the evidence. If you wait until everything looks possible, you don't need faith. Faith is proven when you trust God in the impossible. And let me tell you, faith doesn't just change circumstances, it changes you. When you choose faith, fear loses its grip. When you choose faith, hope is reborn. When you choose faith, the atmosphere around you shifts because God is drawn to those who believe. So I ask you today, what impossible situation are you facing? Don't surrender to it. Don't bow before it. Activate your faith. Speak to that mountain. Reach for the hem of His garment. Step out of the boat. Trust that the God who spoke the universe into being can speak into your life today. Faith does not make things easy, but it makes them possible. And when you dare to believe, heaven responds, miracles are released, and the impossible becomes your testimony. One of the greatest truths of the Christian life is this: God does not need your strength, He needs your surrender. Many of us think breakthrough comes when we try harder, push stronger, fight longer. But heaven's power does not flow through human striving. It flows through surrendered hearts. When you let go of control and say, "Not my will, but yours be done," that is when God steps in and does what you could never do. Surrender is not weakness. It is the ultimate act of faith. It is saying, "Lord, I trust you more than I trust myself. I trust your wisdom above my plans. I trust your power above my effort." And the moment you lay your life at His feet, His strength begins where yours ends. Look at Moses at the Red Sea. Israel was trapped, Pharaoh's army behind them, water in front of them. Fear gripped the people, but Moses lifted up his staff in obedience to God's instruction. He could not part the sea on his own. He had no power to save the nation, but in surrender, he obeyed. And God did what no man could ever do. He split the waters, making a way where there was no way. It wasn't Moses' strength. It was God's power released through Moses' surrender. We see the same truth in the life of Jesus. In the Garden of Gethsemane, He faced the agony of the cross. In His humanity, He prayed, "If it is possible, let this cup pass from me." But then came the words of surrender, "Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done." And because of that surrender, salvation came to all humanity. The greatest victory in history was born out of surrender. Surrender is not giving up. It is giving over. It is placing the weight of your life into the hands of the one who never fails. Some of you are exhausted because you are trying to fix everything yourself. You are trying to hold your family together with your own hands, trying to solve your financial struggles with your own wisdom, trying to heal your heart with your own effort. And God is saying, stop fighting in your own strength. Hand it to me. Surrender. When you hold on, you limit what God can do. But when you let go, you release heaven's power into your situation. The widow with the little jar of oil is a perfect example. She had nothing left but a small jar. Yet when she obeyed the prophet's instruction and surrendered what she had, God multiplied it until every vessel was overflowing. What she gave was small, but what God did was supernatural. That's what happens when you surrender. Do not confuse surrender with passivity. Surrender is not sitting back and doing nothing. Surrender is active trust. It is saying, "Lord, I will obey your instruction even when I don't understand it." It is Noah building an ark when there was no rain. It is Abraham lifting the knife, trusting that God would provide. It is Mary saying, "Be it unto me according to your word," even when she didn't know how it would happen. Surrender is obedience fueled by trust. And here's the mystery. What you release multiplies. What you surrender, God sanctifies. What you lay down, He raises up. When you cling to your will, you get only what your strength can produce. But when you release it, you get what His power can produce. And His power is limitless. So I challenge you today, what are you holding on to that God is asking you to surrender? Is it your fear, your future, your family, your finances? Lay it down. Because in your surrender, He will reveal His strength. In your surrender, He will open doors no man can shut. In your surrender, He will turn battles into victories. My friend, the greatest miracles are birthed not through control, but through surrender. If you will place your life in His hands and trust Him fully, you will see what human effort could never achieve. Because when you step back in surrender, God steps forward in power. One of the greatest assurances you can carry in your heart is this: the God who began a good work in you will bring it to completion. He is not like men who start projects and leave them unfinished. He is not like builders who abandon construction halfway. When God lays a foundation, He already sees the finished masterpiece. And though the process may be long, though the road may be rough, though circumstances may fight against you, His hand is steady, His plan is sure, and His purpose will prevail. So many of us look at our lives and think, it's too late. I've made too many mistakes. I've fallen too far behind. But hear me clearly. Your failures do not cancel God's plan. Your weakness does not make Him weaker. What He started in you, He is faithful to finish. Even when you stumble, even when you fall, even when you wander, His hand reaches down and pulls you back onto the path He designed. Think of Noah. God instructed him to build an ark, a massive vessel to survive a flood the world had never seen. It took decades of ridicule, sweat, and perseverance. But the one who gave the blueprint also gave the strength to finish it. And when the rain finally fell, the ark was not half built, it was complete, because God always finishes what He starts. Look at Israel's journey to the promised land. Though they wandered 40 years in the wilderness, though they faced rebellion, battles, and setbacks, God's promise did not die in the desert. He led them across the Jordan. He brought down the walls of Jericho. He established them in the land flowing with milk and honey. Why? Because when God makes a covenant, He keeps it. What He begins, He brings to fulfillment. And what about you? Maybe He started a dream in your heart years ago, but it feels buried under disappointment. Maybe He called you to something greater, but life's trials made you doubt it. Let me remind you, if God planted the seed, it is still alive. Seeds may look dead in the soil, but in time, they break forth. Delay does not mean death. If He began it, He has already determined the harvest. Even Jesus on the cross declared, "It is finished." The work of salvation was not left undone. Every prophecy fulfilled, every sin paid for, every chain broken. He didn't say it's halfway. He said, "It is finished." That is the nature of God: completion, fulfillment, perfection. And the same God who finished redemption at Calvary will finish the story of your life. Do not fear unfinished chapters. What looks incomplete to you is still under His hand. The brush of the painter has not left the canvas. The pen of the author has not stopped writing. He is still at work. You may only see fragments, but He sees the final masterpiece. When men walk away, God remains. When people give up on you, God still invests in you. When everything around you says, "It's over," God says, "I'm not done yet." And if He is not done, then you are not finished. So hold on. Do not throw away your faith. The same God who carried you through yesterday will sustain you today and will lead you into tomorrow. He is faithful from beginning to end. And when you stand at the end of your journey, you will look back and declare, "Surely God has finished what He started in me." And my friend, trust this truth. God does not leave things undone. The promise will come. The work will be complete. The story will end in victory, because He who began a good work in you is